Hello, everyone. I'm Jason Perez.
And I'm Wesley Long.
And we're bringing you a fresh new take on disaster preparedness.
Welcome to DisasterClass.
And you know what that means, Wesley?
Class is in session.
Class is in session. Well, today we are going to start talking about one of the concepts that we teach in our class, our community emergency planning class. And that is what we call the 8 essentials. Yeah. Now, these are 8 categories of supplies to prepare in your disaster kit in the event of emergency. These categories are as follows: water, food, clothing, shelter, communication and navigation, health and hygiene, tools and sustainability, and special considerations. Now, of course, we're going to dive deep into these in future episodes, but the most important of these is water, and that's why it's rightly number 1 on our list. Yep. So if your community is impacted by a hazard that affects your access to water, what will you do? You may not be able to just go to the store and, buy water. Your home water supply could become contaminated or inaccessible, and then there may not be water at the store. Those are usually some of the first things to go. So what can we do, Wesley? What can we do?
Yeah, well, it's a great question, right? Because the best thing you can do is have a supply of bottled water available, right? FEMA recommends 1 gallon per person per day for a minimum of 3 days. That recommendation, though, you just have to be a little bit careful with that number of that gallon, because, the next line that most people forget what FEMA says is that's for not just for drinking, but it's also for sanitation. So you have to be careful with how much you're going to be using for sanitation versus how much you're going to use for drinking. And then also, too, in our class, what we try to teach is don't go for the bare minimum, right? Like, try to go above and beyond just to make things a little bit more comfortable for you, right? We talk about surviving versus thriving. So instead of shooting for 3 days, maybe shoot for 5 days, right? Just have a little bit more available than you think you might need. And then we also have to realize that there's a difference between sheltering place, which is kind of a concept that we're pretty familiar with now because of COVID and restrictions, and we're staying home. So we understand shelter in place, and then there's a difference between that and evacuation, right? If you have to get up and go somewhere, obviously the quantity of water that you bring with you is going to be a concern, right? Because water is pretty heavy. We ask this all the time in our class: how much does 1 gallon of water weigh? Usually we get 1 or 2 people that know that it's about 8 pounds. Yeah. Right. So if you're having to pick that up and carry it on your back, or to get from point A to point B, obviously the weight is going to be a concern. So the way we prepare for evacuation is going to be much different for if we're stuck at home and don't have to carry things with us.
Absolutely. Those are some really great points. And unfortunately, we just don't have time to get too much into detail.
That's why we have a class.
That's why we have a class. So if you want to learn more, go take the class. But yes, the amount of water that we're going to prepare is going to be different, based on the situation, if it's an evacuation, sheltering in place, and also our personal capabilities too. How much water can we actually carry on us? Now, we have done a lot of research on this topic, researching different solutions, different techniques in terms of water storage, water treatment. Now, there's one solution that we have found extremely helpful. It's actually a solution I've been using for quite a long time, several years in the backpacking camping world. Yep. And so we're actually going to have a special guest talking with us today, representative from this really great company and an awesome product. So don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to get to hear and talk with our special guest. When you need an emergency plan, you need Doberman Emergency Management. Whether you're buying a home and want to know about your local hazards, or you're a professional needing additional support, Doberman Emergency Management can help. Visit DobermanEMG.com today to learn more. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of DisasterClass. Today, we have with us Travis Avery from an amazing company that both Wesley and I really love, called Sawyer, which provides advanced solutions for protection against sun, bugs, water injuries. So Travis, welcome to DisasterClass.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. So as I kind of already said, but I just need to start off by saying that me and Wesley are huge fans of Sawyer Products. I've been using the water filters. I'm a big backpacker, hiker, camper. So I've been using the water filters ever since I got into that. And we're definitely gonna talk more about the products. But first, could you just start off by giving us a little background about Sawyer, its history, its mission, and what your role is there at the company?
Yeah. So Sawyer's been around since 1984. We started in the first aid kit category and have now expanded into sunscreen, insect repellents, and water filtration, with water filtration and insect repellent being our biggest by far at this point. I help run the marketing department.
Nice.
Awesome. Very cool.
Nice. So in class, what we teach, we have a little class that we teach individuals in. And one of the concepts we talk about is 8 essentials that people need to address in disaster planning, right? Actually, the first on our list in that class is actually water, because we do feel it is the most important. But why would you say that water sanitation is a high priority for disaster planning?
Yeah, well, even outside of disaster, waterborne illnesses is like the leading cause of hospitalizations and death elsewhere around the world. So especially in survival situations, outside of air, water is the second biggest priority. And obviously humans can't go days without it. So it's very understandable for a survival situation, especially when presumably other variables at play. Having a clean water is absolutely essential.
Yep. Yeah. We couldn't possibly agree more. So one of the things is, from our understanding, we know that you, as your company, you guys are involved in disaster relief, international aid in developing countries. Could you tell us a little about how Sawyer has made impact in these settings? Maybe what other countries you're involved in, and some of the things you guys are doing internationally?
Yeah, for sure. So we've, like I said, water filtration was the last category we got into. We took great pride in our filter technology, and we quickly learned that these filters could be servicing people above and beyond their outdoor hobbies and outdoor recreation. So in 2008 was the very first time we'd started to implement these filters internationally with our various charity partners. And that was in Fiji, and then some of the other pilot programs were in Honduras and Haiti. And we have since then expanded. We currently work with 140 charities in over 80 countries.
Wow.
So yes, the projects can range from what we like to call transformational. So it's basically very strategic implementation. It's planned out. We do training sessions. Smaller the groups, the better. Then we do follow-ups to make sure that they fully understand how the filters are working. Mm-hmm. And those are the ones that create the most effective and longest lasting systems. And we've got some of those have been in consistent daily use for 14 years now.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Very cool.
Yeah. So those are the most impactful, but naturally in disaster situations there's not always that time for installation training and whatnot. So the fact that these filters can still be readily deployable and easily used even by the unfamiliar makes them fantastic for disaster situations. So naturally the highly reactive disaster situations, whether it be natural disasters or like stuff going on in Ukraine right now, I think we're up to over 50,000 of our filters have already been installed or en route to Ukraine right now.
Beautiful.
That's awesome.
Yep.
And we can personally speak to the ease of use. They're so easy to use, and kind of a shout out, because it's like you said, it's not always when something happens you can deploy them, and it's going to take a while to get there. So the importance of planning ahead. So if there's people who can make use of these, so it's like, don't wait till the incident happens. Let's try and get these things, get the training and all that stuff in place before the event. Yep. Because then once it happens, then you're set up and you're ready to go. Yeah.
That was one of the main things we're trying to work with like FEMA and American Red Cross on. These filters are so light and have such high output. Like they could be saving so much transportation cost. Like, there is still the prevalence of people they want to send bottled water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, how much transportation costs does it take to transport bottled water where, one of our tap filters might be able to, our tap filters can filter up to 500 gallons a day. So you could very easily be making far more room for medical supplies or other emergency response supplies just by using the filters alone, or using them in combination.
Yeah, just the weight trade-off.
Replace water, but
yeah, and that's the same exact concept that we try to preach with, in our emergency preparedness and our business instinct ready with our go bags. We're selling pre-made kits, and not everybody loves that. We get it, but that's one of the things. Instead of just necessarily carrying water with you, if you carry the means to filter it, if you're in a demographic location or geographic location where you have fresh water or water that you can clean, right? If you're in the middle of the desert waiting to find a spring of water that you can filter, might not be the most advantageous. But in places like we're in the Northeast, there's water everywhere. As long as I'm carrying a filter, I'm going to be fine, because I'll have as much water to drink that I could possibly have.
Sure.
Yeah.
And typically, well, I guess I was referring to specifically disaster response situations, and in those cases, water availability is rarely an issue. It's just whether or not it's safe to drink or not.
Yep. It's not potable. Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely. So maybe we can get actually down into the actual products now.
Sure.
So what's so special about the Sawyer water filters, and why, we've talked a lot about using them in this type of setting, but what makes them special and different?
Yeah, nope. We kind of rolled all that up under, now we call it the Sawyer standard. So it's the idea that, yes, we are not the only company that uses hollow fiber membrane filters, but there's a big difference. And so I'll sometimes say, a Kia and a Cadillac are both cars, but they're not exactly the same. So with our water filters, first and foremost, we are the only company that individually tests every single filter 3 times. So whether you're hiking or in the middle of Honduras in a disaster situation, we need to make sure that your filter is totally reliable. So first and foremost, that is one of the key ways that we are distinguished. Also, we're 0.1 microns absolute, so that means all of our fibers have that uniform design, and so no pores are bigger than 0.1 microns, so we can be absolutely sure that nothing is slipping through. And then as an added benefit, that also removes 100% of microplastics. And then last but not least is the actual fiber quality itself. The fibers we use are around 75% stronger than most of the other kind of big name brands on the market right now. And so that's why ours can not only filter out more, but also withstand the vigorous backwashing that allows it to be consistently reused. And that's why, we designed these filters to have 10-year shelf lives and be able to survive, your daily or routine use. But the fact that some of them now are teenagers out in the wild exceeds our expectations.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Absolutely. And one of the things I really just, from using the product, I really appreciate that it's lightweight, it's versatile, unlike other products, which I'm not going to mention, but that, you just have to drink it through like a straw, which is great, but there's so many more uses to water than just drinking. And so I like the fact that it's, yes, you can use it for drinking, but also for sanitation, for cooking.
Yep.
So it's definitely very versatile, lightweight, and which is why we decided to include it in our UPAC Pro product.
Correct.
Oh, well, we appreciate that. We also try to keep everything rather standardized, so everyone can kind of MacGyver their own system. So it's got the standard 20 millimeter threading. So if you want to use different size pouches or bottles, it's also designed for use on 1/4-inch tubing, which when we started that was like the industry standard size. They've kind of slightly deviated from that, but yes, they were intentionally designed to have a variety of different ways you can use them, and obviously in disaster situations those can be clutch.
Nice.
Yeah, I use mine inline with my Camelback.
Oh yeah, with your
there you
hydration
go.
bladder. Yeah. Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely one of the easy ways to use it right out of the box.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Really great. So now some some experts recommend other options for treating water, and they are viable options, right? Like purifying tablets. You can actually use certain amount of bleach to just purify your water to some degree. How do you feel that Sawyer filters compare with some of these other potentially recommended options?
Yeah. Well, the overwhelming majority of contaminants in water domestically and even internationally is biological. So like bacteria, protozoa, and cysts. So, I mean, those are the big ones. And again, like we had kind of alluded to or mentioned earlier, that's the leading cause of sickness around the world is, bacteria contamination. So first and foremost, that's what we got to take care of. We do have other systems that can go on and remove viruses. We also have a system that can even remove pesticides, chemicals, heavy metals, and more. But predominantly, it's bacteria and protozoa cysts that need to be removed. And with our hollow fiber membrane fibers, that can be done basically instantly. It's like barrier filtration, so filtration on the fly. Now with chemical or bleach or whatever, there's inherently a dwell time. So you want to make sure that you've got sufficient time to it has done its job. Cryptosporidium can take up to 4 hours to be neutralized by chemical treatments, so dwell time can be a significant factor. Another unappealing thing about chemical or other similar treatments is you're still going to be consuming, even if you're still going to be drinking all the particulate that's in the water, whereas our filters we're removing anything and everything above 0.1 microns. So that's added benefit as well. So there's one of the things I'll say is that there's more than one good recipe for chocolate chip cookies. So I understand that if our filter isn't the exact perfect solution for every single scenario, but in continuing with that analogy, our recipe is pretty dang good.
Yeah. Nice. We agree. We concur.
Yeah, it's interesting because we in our class we talk about some of these concepts, and which is one of the reasons why we like the Sawyer product is people get the tablets or and it's like, oh, I could just throw these tablets in and I'm good. Well, like you said, like there's still stuff in there that you're going to be consuming. It doesn't it purifies it, but it doesn't filter all that stuff out. So you still need to filter it. And then the other thing is that forgot where I was going to go with this.
Probably the purification tablets are rated for a certain
that's where
ounceage.
I was going to go.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing that we tell people too. They're like, oh, I'll just get this jug of water. Well, nope, they're actually rated. So you could I hate to say over purify, but you could oversaturate with that chemical and then you would be drinking it, right? So we have found most people don't even realize that. Each usually purification tablet's good for 16 to 17 ounces. So if you don't have a graduated device and you don't know how much water you have, you won't necessarily know if you're purifying it to the correct degree either. So lots of stuff when it comes to those other options, where with you, your cookies, they're wonderful and they're super easy to make, right? they're super available.
I appreciate you running with that analogy.
Oh, because I love it. I'm going to be using that all the time now.
We're probably going to get some cookies after this.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Probably going to need some chocolate chip cookies. But no, it's a really good analogy. And again, it may not be the best chocolate chip cookie you've ever had in your entire life, but because of the ease of use and the availability, it just makes a whole lot of sense, which is why we decided to partner with you guys anyway and just and supply that for our top tier bag. Right. We came to the same understanding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, this was awesome, Travis. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us. Now, where can people go to stay in touch with Sawyer? Where can they purchase Sawyer? Any kind of plug you want to put in here? We give you permission to go for it.
That. First and foremost, we just came out of a rebranding, so we have a refreshed logo, kind of a throwback to one of our heritage logos. We have a little water drop hidden in there, like a FedEx style logo. So come check out our new website. Not only are we excited for the refresh, we're being more prominent and vocal about our international programs, so you can learn more about that type of stuff. We now have an impact ticker. We now have provided clean water to more than 26 million people around the world because of people like you. So whether people are buying our filters or our insect repellents or whatever, they're helping us kind of provide these long-term solutions around the world through our charity partners. So definitely come check out our website. We're also active on Instagram at Sawyer Products, or if you're more sportsman-oriented, hunting and fishing, we also have a Sawyer Sportsman's account, which is a little bit more tailored. Come check us out. If you have any questions, shoot us an email or throw us a DM. We'll love answering good questions and making sure our customers are confident in our systems and excited to use them.
Awesome.
Thank
you, Travis. And we'll go ahead and we're going to put some links in our description too, so people can easily get in touch with you there. But it was such a pleasure talking with you, and we really enjoyed it.
DisasterClass is brought to you by Instinct Ready, whose mission is to educate, prepare, and equip individuals, households, and families for disasters through quality education and premium products. Use promo code DisasterClass at instinctready.com for 10% off site-wide.
Well, before we conclude this episode of Disaster Class, as always, there's homework.
There is. So please make sure you like and subscribe. Leave us that 5-star rating and give us a thumbs up. And then please comment on something that you appreciated or something that you learned through the podcast.
Yep. And as always, if you have a question, you have a preparedness tip, you have a disaster story to share, send us an email at disasterclass@instinctready.com or drop us a message on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. In doing so, we'll always put you in the running to win some cool prizes and be featured on the show. So thanks for listening to Disaster Class, everyone. Stay educated.
Stay prepared.
Stay equipped. We'll see you next time.